broadcasting live from the Roanoke Valley of southwestern Virginia. Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Reverend Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Today, I'm going to be adventuring into part 3 of 4 of 100 questions about mediumship. But before I get started, I just wanted to remind our listeners, those of you out there that might be interested in developing your own abilities and gifts, that I offer a wide array of training, everything from weekly psychic development circle meetings to psychic development, mediumship training, channeling, spirit art, and my more popularly known also certification program for professional psychic mediumship. So if you're interested in any of those, please check out my website at mediumtraceylockwood.com or call me directly on my business cell at 540-998-9789. I love to text. That's an easy way to reach me. All righty, so here we go. We're going to dive right in. Last week we finished with question 41, and so we'll start with question 42. This is taken from The Laws of Spirit Mediumship by Reverend Lena Barnes-Jepts, and I'm using the questions that were posed to her and her answers and putting in my own opinion here. Question 42, what is clairaudience? Well, clairaudience is, as you know, the ability to hear spirit, and she says it's the ability to hear with the spiritual ear the whisperings of those who have made the change called death, and sometimes called soul hearing. I really like the term soul hearing. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how clairaudience or clairvoyance works, thinking that maybe people see spirit as if they're standing in front of them or hear them as if they're speaking to them in the room. And although that is most definitely possible, it isn't typical of the way that mediums pull in information. A lot of times it's through a feeling or through a language of the soul. And clairaudience can encompass specific words, or you can kind of translate the message by tuning into the resonance of that person. And that happens for some people naturally and for other people through practice. Question 43, do you believe that spirits can become annoying to a person who is clairaudient by trying to talk to them constantly? And her answer is perhaps they do in some cases, but it's all unnecessary. One doesn't need to heed that which they hear from spirit friends any more than that which they hear from earth people. Perfect control of your own thoughts helps you attune yourself to spirit vibrations only when you desire. Well, I want to say that is true, and energy follows focus, and you can direct your guides to back off the spirits when you're not working or not in a working mode, and then you can also open that ability up when you're focused for a client. I have not really had a problem with them just chattering on and on. It is a matter of focus, tuning into that vibration. So if you're having a little bit of trouble getting TMI from the other side, maybe it's time to tune your vibration. It's not always tuning it higher like you might think. It has to do with learning to close down your energy with the polite occupied sign on your energy field, and allows you to have your work of your day and encounters with nature and the other things that we do in life that don't involve the spirit world so much. Other people kind of enjoy having them around. So it's up to you, and I can definitely help work with you if that is something that you're battling and having a terrible time with. But most normally, just ask your guides and they will take care of that for you. Question 44. Can everyone become clairaudient? Well, they're going to answer and then I'm going to answer. They say, no, we don't think so. Clairaudience comes to us through the ability to develop the inner spiritual ear to the point where we can catch these higher vibrations of sound, which are inaudible to the physical ear. It seems that we cannot, all of us, develop that ability any more than we can blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I disagree with them. I think that we can develop that ability. I think it's a natural ability. I think it has to do with calming the soul. And also sometimes people can move into, say, channeling without actually passing through a state of being aware of clairaudience. Maybe when they're connecting with spirit, they're just staring at the spirit and the spirit staring at them, and they haven't learned how to link their mind to that mind of the spirit, or to link their soul to that soul, so they may not see words or hear words. Part of that is the way that spirit communicates. However, those same people might find themselves excellent channelers where they just open up and words pour through them from another source too. So I think it's a matter of development. They do say that, you know, it's a development of the inner spiritual ear. And again, I think that's a natural ability. So can everyone become clairaudient? My answer is yes, but I also do think it takes development. And some people are more naturally clairsentient or clairvoyant. So they might feel or see spirit more easily than they can hear them. Those that are really super good at clairaudience, hearing spirit speak, are the ones that are really good at bagging and tagging the names of spirits. They might get names more than somebody else, but then somebody who's more empathic or more clairsentient might pick up more the personality of that person. Which is the greater proof? Well, I think they're both great proofs, but I also think that being able to convey the personality of someone and some of the memories and maybe visual description of that person, or memories that are visual for that person, or symbols that are given, all of that is evidence. So maybe we don't try to control what spirit gives us, just make sure that we're open to hear and see and feel and know the things that are given to us, and don't worry too much about which way it comes in. And the more you work, the more practice you get, the easier it is. Question 45. What conditions are essential for developing clairaudience? Good question. Freedom, they say freedom from all material thoughts, absolute quiet, and a passive mind that one may listen with that spirit, with that spiritual ear for higher vibrations of sound coming from spirit. I really don't like the term passive. That just kind of freaks me out to think about being passive. But I do think it has to do with a quietude of soul and getting to that place of stillness and openness and observation of soul, so that we can see, hear, and feel those subtle vibrations. 46, what is clairsentience? Well, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's clear feeling. And the way they describe it is the most common of all these phases of clairvoyance, most generally known as impressional mediumship. Many mediums get their messages entirely in this way, neither hearing or seeing spirit people, only sensing them and receiving impressionally their messages. And again, I think that those abilities can be sharpened and deepened with practice and guidance, but definitely being able to feel and convey the messages impressionally, as they're talking about, is probably the deepest level of mediumship, even though we might, in the earth plane think that, oh, well, if somebody has somebody's name, that's the end all and be all. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's really connecting with that spirit, because, a name is evidence, but not always proof that that spirit is present, but being able to convey the messages or impressions that are gotten from that person, that's where the evidence really builds and becomes pertinent to the listener, the sitter. Number 47, how can we differentiate between the real message of spirit and our own thoughts? Wow, that's really good. And before I mess myself up by reading whatever they say, I want to just put in my 2 cents right now. Real message of spirits versus our own thoughts. One thing that happens when we try to connect with spirit and we're beginning to open our abilities is that we might try to see too hard or hear too hard. It's really important to just feel, to just get to that point of quietude and peace and allow things to come to you rather than reaching out for them. Not pushing, but allowing. I think that's extremely important. And I think that the messages that come to us from spirit are given to us. They're not something that it's not like an Easter egg hunt, like, ooh, I found something over here and I found something over here, because there are a lot of symbols and impressions and all kinds of things out there in the subtle realm that may or may not have something to do with the specific spirit that you're speaking with. So getting quiet and allowing that person to sit in your presence and sitting in their energy and beginning to resonate and recognize the personal signature of that spirit, that's where that depth begins to occur. Let me see what they say. They say the first thought that comes to us is usually spirit. The more we think about it, the more tinged it becomes with our own personality. Yeah, sometimes, unless we're reaching too hard, that is true. Only the constant practice and development, blah, blah, blah. Yes. I also want to say that often the messages from spirit that we get don't make sense to our mind. We might see something and we're thinking, what is that? Like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Or we hear a phrase that doesn't make sense, or we want to correct it, or we think we couldn't have heard that properly. Those are probably the messages from spirit. Whereas doing, like, listening or feeling what we think that person would say, although the imagination is involved in allowing messages of spirit to come through, because the mind gets relaxed and can start playing and pulling in information that is pertinent. Again, forcing it is probably going to bring images and words and symbols that are of no importance to your sitter. So relaxing enough to just allow things to come to you is the ticket on there. What is psychometry? Well, most of you listening know that psychometry is when you have an object and you touch it or look at it and you start feeling the stories that are embedded in that object, maybe the type of relationship of the person that held it, maybe memories, etc. I know one time someone brought me a pair of reading glasses, and instantly I could see her husband sitting in a chair with a newspaper with his glasses on, watching her over the top of the paper surreptitiously with great delight, and taking pride in her and the work that she did around the house as she cleaned and cooked and flustered about, but trying to pretend like he wasn't looking at her. And she confirmed that that was absolutely how their relationship was. They'd had a very loving relationship, but he didn't always, I mean, he was affectionate with her, but one of the things that she noticed is he would, like, watch her with admiration as she just did basic things around the house. And she said it just made her feel so good to be the object of his affection there. Okay, they say, technically speaking, the word means soul measuring, psychometry. It is the mediumistic ability to read from the vibrations emanating from different articles. Yes, and also you can go in a house and pick up the vibration, or go on a piece of land and pick up the vibration, or pretty much anything that's a tangible object retains the vibrations of the stronger emotions and memories and stories that have happened near or upon it. So that's how you can walk in a house and just sense that something good happened here or something bad happened here. So that would also be psychometry. Also, touching a piece of paper and sensing the color or words that are written on it, that would be considered psychometry, also psychometrizing. Number 49, is psychometry the same as clairvoyance or clairaudience? No, although I have to say clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, and clairaudience, which is clear hearing, obviously beyond the physical realm, they can be triggered by psychometry, because as you touch an object, those impressions that have been embedded energetically in that object pop visions and sounds and feelings. Let me see. Is psychometry the same as clairvoyance or clairaudience? They say no. Clairvoyance is the development of the spiritual eye, clairaudience, the spiritual ear. Psychometry could be more directly likened to clairsentience, for both are impressional to a certain extent. Yeah, I guess it would be more a feeling thing, but it does trigger your clairvoyance and your clairaudience, which is really interesting and fun to do if you have a chance to practice your psychometric skills there. Question number 50, what is the best way to develop psychometry? And they say take a letter or any other object and hold it in your hand and relax and tune into its vibrations and receive any impressions that you can regarding it or its owner, or naming spirits that it might attract. Yeah, that's good. Practice is the best way to develop psychometry. It's really fun too, by the way, unless you're in a really creepy place, then it's maybe not fun. Anyway, question 51. Do you think that psychometry can always be depended on? Let's see what they have to say about that. I don't know what they mean by that question. Not at first, perhaps. Oh, I think they mean like if you're trying to read something and someone hands you an object, are you going to get all the information from that spirit? Probably not without practice or being in an absolutely quiet state of mind. They say that at first, in developing any phase of mental mediumship, the spirit is the sender and the medium is the receiver. Oh, that's interesting, because some people actually are good at receiving and some are good at sending. So you don't think about the fact that the spirit is also trying to send, and some are better or not so good at sending. Anyway, and us as mediums too. Let's see. You must also give freely that which you believe you're receiving from spirit, for only by constant practice and effort are you able to receive correctly. No medium is infallible, and I would say that that is true in one sense, that no one is infallible. Anyone can make a mistake. However, I do believe in 100% accuracy being possible, and I have a lot of reasons for that I've discussed in previous videos. However, it does take the effort of the medium to stay completely neutral too. And let's see. It's just a lot of blah, blah, blah. So can psychometry always be depended upon? I guess not until you get it going, but you'd really surprise yourself if you tried psychometry. I think you'd find that you can do so much. Question number 52, what is trumpet mediumship? And I'll just read what they say. Trumpet mediumship is the ability of the medium to produce, with the assistance of the spirit forces, the phenomenon of levitation and voices, which are audible to the physical ear. The trumpet, usually of tin or aluminum, is floated about the room by the spirits, not touched by human hands, or it would be termed false. The voice of the spirit loved ones are thrown into the trumpet, and we're able to talk to them. Their language is so formal. Anyway, trumpet mediumship is indeed a piece of metal. It is thin. It's usually aluminum or light tin, and it's collapsible, and it pulls out into this kind of cone shape. And the ectoplasm and energies of the spirit and the medium and the ectoplasm of the medium and the sitters, the other people that are in the circle, gather together to form enough energy, basically, that becomes physical enough that that trumpet can be lifted up off of a table, and sort of, if you were to be watching it in red light, it would be floating around the room. It's often done in a dark room, and some people think that, well, that makes it easier for spirit to work. Maybe so, because maybe in physical light, people are less likely to detach and allow spirit to go ahead and work. But I don't know. It's sort of a way that people enjoyed doing it around the turn of the century, and there's still people today that do that. I've not seen it because I was in total pitch blackness, but I've heard it, and it's interesting because it sounds like the voice of the spirit is being projected using the voice of the medium that's in a dead trance to broadcast words, and as it moves around the room, it talks louder. But can I 100% say that I don't know, I don't know. I couldn't see it, so I guess seeing is believing, even for us mediums. I know that it is possible. I don't doubt that it's possible, but I would think for credibility, it would be really important to do that in a way that it could be documented that it wasn't by any human hand by any means. Number 53, why do they use trumpet? And the answer is to intensify the voices, that they might be more clearly heard by those in the seance or sitting. It is also used in a cabinet in which the ectoplasmic vocal organs are developed for articulation. That's getting into physical mediumship. I think they do it to prove that spirit's there, basically. And there are lots of other ways to do that, too. Number 54, what Bible reference can you give to prove that trumpets manifestations were known in earlier days? They quote Exodus 20:18 through 23. I do think that's what it was, but however, I don't know. You're not going to convince somebody that doesn't believe that by quoting some scripture back at them. Number 55, do you hear of instances of levitation very often in the history of spiritualism? I was going to say, actually, I heard of levitation in a dark sense with a client who was being levitated by dark spirits before I came to help clear their house out. But yes, levitation is done by different people. I have not witnessed it again, so I can't, bring you a personal story about it. D.D. Home, I think his name is Hume. It's pronounced Hume, even though it was spelled H-O-M-E. D.D. Hume was a gifted physical medium and had levitated many times, even went out a window into another building across the street. And that was under very strict test conditions. I would have loved to see that. Table tipping and stuff like that is also heard of, in terms of moving objects. I'm not really fixated on that kind of stuff. So again, no personal stories for you on that one. Number 56, how is levitation accomplished? I'll give you their answer. The majority of spirit teachers tell us that they draw a substance called ectoplasm, so named by Professor Richet of Paris, Richet, I bet, of Paris, from the body of the medium as they do in materialization. Combine it with chemicals and strength drawn from the sitters and the atmosphere. It's formed in masses and rods by the spirit chemists or healer guides and placed under the article that they desire to levitate. This is sometimes called telekinesis, meaning movement at a distance from the motive, cause, or agency without material connection. And a lot of you out there may have noticed that you have a telekinetic effect on objects, or a kinetic effect on lights, or maybe have instruments, batteries drain, or watches die, or clocks stop, or registers blitz out. This kind of thing does happen because we're an energy field, and especially as we're opening up to the higher vibrations of spirit, we kind of pass through a kinetic phase, and then as we approach physical mediumship at the other side of our development, we can also start activating and triggering things. That's absolutely possible. Number 57, how are voices produced? They said the sound vibrations in the air are set out from the sitters, blah, blah, blah. That's not important. Why is it that the voices sometimes sound like those of the mediums in the sitter? And that's because it's using the vocal cords of the medium, and because spirit obviously doesn't have any physicality. And so like when someone's channeling, you might hear them speaking, a spirit speaking through them from the other side, and it might have intonation and speech patterns and rhythms, but it's still going to sound pretty much like the voice of the medium, because it's coming through them. And apparently that happens in trumpet too. Number 59, what effect does the skeptic with many doubts have upon this manifestation? And, I think that's why they do it in dark, because if you were watching the trumpet waiting for it to move, it probably would never move. But if it were hidden in the dark, then your mind relaxes and it allows less resistance. It definitely, someone that's trying to resist or push against something that a medium is trying to assist them with is going to create resistance, because again, we're all energy. They say thoughts are real and active things, and doubt makes conditions that are impossible for spirit to work. We were just drifting into the topic of skeptics in question 59. Skeptics really create a certain resistance that makes it more difficult for a medium to operate. And for the true skeptics out there, you might be thinking, oh, well, if we're influencing you and you can't work when we're skeptical, then you don't really have anything to prove. Excuse me. But that's really being quite ignorant of the way that the medium works. The medium is putting their mind in a state of light trance, generally between sleep and wake, where they are relaxed and when they can open up to subtle energy. And if there is a resistance that's given, it is like a shock for the medium. They're in this very quiet state of mind, one of service, one of openness, one of love, one of wanting to bring as much information across the veil or the portal or the whatever you think of it from the other side as possible. And by putting up a skeptical resistance, crossing your arms and setting your chin and challenging, it's almost, it deadens the information because it pulls the medium's connection with you down to a lower vibration, and it skews them to their left brain because the questions that you're asking are from your left brain. And if you're really sincere about answers, then you're going to allow the medium to work. Just ask the questions and let go and listen to the answers, and you will be able to decide whether you resonate with that or not. Your free will is never taken away, believe me. So number 60, the question is, what conditions are conducive to a good result? And so they say a passive mind, and again, I prefer a quiet or calm or receptive mind rather than passive. But anyway, a quiet mind, seeking for truth and ready to accept it once found. And, they're emphasizing, we do not ask you to be gullible, for that would be wrong, but don't demand of the spirit. Gently lead the spirit with your conversation and the medium with your conversation, giving them every opportunity to give you proof without having to create a doubt vibration. And it says, one who talks always receives more than he who sits silent. The very sound of your voice attracts the spirit loved ones, and they're able to gain strength through your voice and the vibrations you send out. If you don't talk, neither can they to any great extent. And that supports my premise that you need to be focused on what you want from the reading. Just ask your medium or your psychic what it is that you want. Don't be afraid of giving away information. I promise they will give you more than you give them if they're worth their salt as a reader. You don't have to worry about giving too much information, because any medium will use what they already know, whether it's through their own life experience or through connection with what's gone on in yours, to bring forward a message that's helpful to you at that particular time. That doesn't mean it's made up. It means that it resonates with things that have occurred for them or that are going on for you, and that connection is made. Number 61, what do you mean by a test message? A test, in the terminology of spiritualism, is a spirit message, and I'm quoting the book, which reveals facts, names, and dates that prove the personality of the manifesting entity, something that you are positive the medium could not know. It makes it very difficult for the spirit when we demand tests, for there we have contact with the doubt vibration again. So what they're saying is, if you don't have confidence in the person that's reading for you, and you're demanding that they give you a name, or they give you a date, or they give you a number, or something that's in your mind that you are holding close to your chest, like hiding your cards kind of thing, that creates a doubt vibration, which makes it very difficult for us that are working in spirit to relax enough to give you that. Let's see, it says a name or date is more difficult for the spirit than the message itself. And under some of the conditions brought into the seance room by the investigator, it's a wonder that they can give messages at all. The spirit loved ones tell us that they realize the fact that our ever doubtful minds demand tests, and they're many times come prepared to give them, only to have them torn down by more demands for something entirely different. There's a difference in asking a question that you genuinely would like an answer from a person in spirit, versus asking the medium to prove something to you by, tell me what my pet name was, or what did my dad used to call me, or what's the color of something that I have in my pocket, or something like that. It's not supposed to be a test. It's supposed to be a collaborative effort to connect with spirit. And you'll gain so much more by working with the medium's energy rather than trying to resist it and work against it and be resistant. And you can imagine, like, if you were really calm and you're in your zone and you're just totally relaxed and someone just starts shouting at you, well, what's this? And what's 4.5 plus 3.7? And prove it to me that you can do it. You know, it's so abrupt and it's jarring for us. We are sensitives, we are intuitives, and we're not functioning in the same analytical realm that you are in your left brain. So be very kind to us. You know, let us do it our way and let us develop it our way. Number 62, what sort of questions should one ask of spirit loved ones when attending a seance? And the seance is such an old term and kind of a creepy term now. It just means like being in a circle or being in a group of people, or even just in a session with your medium, okay? Anyway, so what kind of questions should you ask? And the answer is questions of a reasonable nature. That makes me laugh. It is people who do not understand, who are prone to demand tests or trivial things. That goes back to what I was saying. If you don't understand how we work, then you're going to be trying to test us, like, what number am I thinking of? And, you know, just very direct questions that are not helpful, because first of all, you already know what your dad used to call you. You don't need us to tell you. You already know that. So that's not a genuine question. That's a prove it kind of thing. And that does set up a very like animosity and resistance. And it's pretty aggressive for somebody that's in trance trying to give you a genuine connection to your loved one. So again, please be kind. When you demand names or dates, they say, as test, you immediately set in motion a negative vibration, for you have doubt thoughts in your mind as to their ability to give this information, or you wouldn't have asked for it. These vibrations, the spirit forces must puncture before they can manifest. We sometimes make conditions quite impossible for them by our mental attitude. Be passive, which I don't like that term, be quiet, and lead the spirit gently in your conversation, and they'll give you proof in that process. And that's absolutely true. If you've ever listened to my How to Get a Better Reading video, which is a brief one, you'll know why some of those things are important. It explains it in more detail. Number 63, what is materialization? Oh, materialization is so cool. Materialization is when a spirit becomes physically obvious, not just to the medium, but to every single person in the room. And they say it's one of the physical phases of mediumship, and perhaps the most important. It is at least the rarest and most difficult of all phases. Through the instrumentality of the medium, with the assistance of spirit guides and chemists, the spirit entity is able to manifest in a body and is a replica of the physical body and is able to walk and talk as if they were on earth. This body is built of the same vaporous substance called ectoplasm, which is used in telekinesis. This substance exudes from the body of the medium and manipulated by spirit doctors and spirit chemists until it forms a solid substance which can be utilized for the time being as the vehicle through which your beloved has passed and on and can manifest to you. This substance is contained within every individual to a certain extent, but the body of a physical medium has to have a superabundance of it in order to produce the phenomenon. Those sitting in the seance can assist in furnishing the necessary chemicals and strength for the manifestation. I have heard that they've analyzed it, ectoplasm, and found out that it's made of leukocytes and epithelial cells. And they've actually had certain manifestations of spirit. They used to really be heavy into testing this stuff back in the day. And they measured one time the weight of the apparition that was the spirit manifesting in a physical body, and it weighed 50 pounds. And the body of the medium lost 30 pounds in the process of creating that. And that's, again, done generally in dead trance. I have seen spirit only once manifested, and that was in my home, and that was Jesus. So, story for another day, but I don't think I made him come. I think he came on his own. So anyway, I don't know. Anyway, question 64. How is the spirit able to manage and manipulate this body? And that's through willpower. And there's one reason that spirits find it difficult to talk in materialization until they get used to being in that physical state. And it doesn't take very much for the body to dematerialize, which is obviously a disintegration. Oh, yeah, I did have a cat materialize through my mediumship, but that's in the physical mediumship episode we did. Number 65, what is impersonation? Impersonation is one of the different stages or degrees of materialization. In this case, it isn't the strength or chemicals enough to produce a full form materialization, and the guides use the body of the medium, draping the ectoplasm over his or her form. And this is an authentic phase of mediumship, just like full form materialization, but of course not as beautiful or difficult. So impersonation is, I would really call that more transfiguration, when the face is shifted. But maybe it's more exaggerated than that. Maybe impersonation is when the features of that person are draped over the features of the medium too. I know people have said that my face transfigures to a degree, but it's not freakish. Don't freak out listening. No, they just said that it's sort of like they can see a shift in my face, but it's not like you see on TV or in movies with like, you know, nothing weird. So number 66, what is etherealization? Etherealization is materialization, they say, to a certain extent, but there aren't enough chemicals to be solid. So it's thin and ethereal, and you can see through it. So I guess etherealization would be spirit coming and just being enough that you could get the sense of it, kind of like a holograph. And I know that that's possible even in broad daylight, so that's kind of cool. Number 67, where do the spirits get the clothing worn in materialization? Good question. By the use of ectoplasm, they claim to be able to draw the material into the room and the clothing worn by sitters, enough material with which to weave their robes. They're also able to draw color pigment from the flowers, rugs, gowns, and reproduce it of their own garments, in some cases robes and scarves of beautiful colors. I would love to see that someday. I think that would just be so amazing. Wouldn't you think that would be amazing to see a spirit manifest so physically that you could see it with your eyes? That would just be so amazing. Number 68, what is transfiguration? And they say transfiguration is similar to impersonation when the body and features of the medium shift to resemble that of the manifesting entity. Yeah, so I guess what people have seen me do is transfigure, but I haven't gone so far that I'm aware of impersonation, which would be having the face of that person sort of draped over my face, I guess. That I'm aware of, at least. Number 69, what reference can you give that proves that materialization was known in biblical days? Again, I'm not trying to push Christian over any other philosophy, but if you're curious, I'll just quickly reference them. Matthew 17, 1 through 3, where Moses and Elias materialized through the mediumship of Jesus. Daniel 5.5, where Belshazzar saw a materialized hand writing on the palace wall. John 20:14, where Mary saw Jesus after his crucifixion. And Luke 24, where he materializes several times to his disciples and many others, including Tracy in her kitchen in Texas. Anyway, 70. In what way is this phenomenon dangerous to the medium? Excellent question. And let's see what they say first. Each spirit is connected to the medium by an ectoplasmic cord because of the material used to build that body in which they temporarily manifest is drawn from the body. Okay, they just go blah, 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 blah. And basically what it is that if there is a spirit that is connected to a medium through an ectoplasmic cord, which sounds just like that, it looks like an umbilical cord of energy or whatever, grayish white matter, then if you touch that apparition and it shocks the spirit back into the body of the medium, it can condense so quickly that the body of the medium can't handle it. And there are some cases where the medium has died when the spirit returned to the body of the medium. I know I heard about somebody, I didn't see it, so again, I can't give you firsthand account, but I did hear of a medium here locally in Roanoke who was a woman, and she was apparently a physical medium, and someone touched the spirit without permission, and it collapsed into the chest of the medium, and she had a stroke at that instant and was permanently impaired from that. So anyway, I guess that's what they're talking about. Number 71, why is it that some spirits come farther from the cabinet, which is a small condensed space, and build more lifelike than others? There could be several reasons for this, they say. First, because of a natural tendency of the spirit to be timid. Second, a lack of willpower or knowledge regarding the laws that govern the phenomenon, but also the negative thought vibrations set out by sitters and people that the spirit might want to come to, but they're not accepting it for whatever reason, and probably because it's pretty dramatic to see that. Each time they materialize, they do become stronger and more natural, because they have more and more practice and understand the laws better. Well, that makes sense, I guess. Number 72, what phase of mediumship does healing come under? Yay, we're going to talk about healing. Oh, you know what? We're going to save that one for our fourth one. We are here at the end of our hour. Thank you so much for joining me, and hope that it makes you wonder about the other side. Remember that it's never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing. Thank you for joining me.